You're listening to Your Rivers Are Wrong, the podcast. My name is Merle. I'm here with my good friend Dante, and we're here to build worlds and tell their stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Good morning, or evening, or afternoon, whenever you may be. Welcome back to the Your Rivers Are Wrong podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Dante.
And I'm the other host, and my name is Merle.
And we're here, as we are every week, to talk about the wonderful whimsies of world building, the arts and aesthetics of setting up a setting, and telling stories born from it. All right. 2 weeks in a row. We're doing good.
Back in the game, baby.
Yeah. I almost forgot what it's like to record, it's only been besides last week, it's only been like a month, but getting back into the groove of recording everything. And it feels actually so different because I remember right at the start.
Oh, really? Okay.
When we were recording these, I was still fiddling around with controls and audio settings and trying to get it perfect. Nowadays, I just hit a couple of filters, do a couple of cuts, and it's way simpler of a process. So the actual recording of the podcast itself is much less stressful. But anyway.
I mean, that's good though. That's all positive.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, could have been worse. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot better. It's so interesting how much you learn just from doing it.
Oh,
People say starting a podcast is easy, but there was like a strong 24-hour learning curve.
Yeah.
I had to learn all the programs, all the equipment.
I remember that time where you spent 8 hours on finding a filter that didn't work or something. And I was like,
yes.
Oh God, don't do that.
And at the end of it, I just trashed it. I'm like, okay, let me just try something else. When all you have are YouTube tutorials, that's all you can go on. But last night I was talking with my friends about to start a session, and one of my players was like, hey, I never really noticed it, but your mic's really good. And I'm like, yeah, this is the one for podcasting.
I know, I make a podcast, by the way.
By the way, easy plug.
Perfect segue, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just next time we should leave our mics super in the open, so whenever someone asks about it, we can just plug our podcast. Marketing ploy.
I think it's
I can
super
see it.
clear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How was your week? What happened this time?
Pretty good. Yesterday, I knew that I had a deadline on coming Thursdays, but yesterday I finally decided to look into what I actually should be doing, which is maybe a lot. Oh, just maybe. So that's going to be a little bit of a sprint after we're done recording this week.
Oh, snap.
But aside from that, we're all good. And I don't know. I've been trying to sleep better, which is also talking about learning curves is an ever-present learning curve for me. But we're trying. We have new motivation for this again. So overall pretty good. And the sun's shining.
It's valid. Yeah, nice. Have you ever tried one of those sleeping apps like Sleep Tracker and all that?
Is that the one where you have to actually wear stuff or put it in your bed, or just the one where you track your whenever you go to sleep yourself?
Yeah,
manually?
It's supposed to auto track when you go to sleep depending on your activity. I've tried using it just to see how my sleeping goes.
How bad was it?
The problem is my phone just dies by the end of the night. So
that
it just
doesn't
full
help.
on stops recording. And it's never been that accurate. But
you have to leave it on all night then or something?
Yeah, it's supposed to have battery and detects sound and light and all that stuff.
Okay, fancy. I know that you can do this with your Apple Watch or something, or your smartwatch, or that it can, I don't know, measure your temperature. How does this work? I don't know.
I mean, I imagine a watch is much easier to do it with.
I guess
yeah,
so.
that makes so much more sense.
Right? Yeah. So I was like, well, I guess an app doesn't really work because then I don't know what it even's going to measure. I don't even know what my sleep rhythm is, let alone if I have to explain this to a digital device. No, but I've been also not consistently, but I've been tracking my habits. So part of that is what time I'm actually in bed, and it's fluctuating.
Of course.
So I've been doing that, but I've realized that I also maybe should track when I wake up, because the sleeping itself is not a problem, but more the going to bed or actually ending up turning off the light and stuff,
Right.
So, I mean, the tracking is the first step here, but at least I'm doing that. So that's providing insight. Isn't that what they say? Yeah.
I have the funniest problem. My light switch, is attached to a, spinning fan on the ceiling. but it's a rope that I can pull to turn off the light.
Oh, okay.
But recently, a few months ago, the rope broke. Like it's fallen off.
Oh,
so I have to like stand on top of my bed to reach up toward the spinning fan and turn it off.
That sounds so complicated. God.
More often than not, it's too difficult. So I just fall asleep with the light on.
Oh no, that's
and it's
awful.
Really, on a whole, it's been a bit detrimental. Tonight, I believe the light was on the whole night.
Oh, but, fuck.
No problem. This is totally.
I mean, how do you even fall asleep with the light on? That's like.
Oh, it's easy. Falling asleep is easy.
Just don't sleep at all, and then you're going to be so tired that you're falling asleep anyway. Bad tips, bad advice. We're awful hosts.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to Terrible Sleeping Tips with Merle and Dante. Anyway, let's get into this. For these sort of wow, this is such a great start to the episode.
I'm already proud of us.
Blazing start.
It's classic by now, the way we do this.
Yeah. So usually we have two topics we bring up. Merle has one. I have one. We don't tell each other what the topics are, which is more fun for us. So I believe, Merle, you have the first topic for today.
Yes.
Why don't you introduce us?
I'll start us off today, huh? Actually, I'll make this into a beautiful little segue about sleep.
Oh, nice.
The reason why I did not sleep from, I guess, last week until like now, partly was because I figured out that a new gay pirate series exists. And it's called...
I've heard about this.
Our Flag Means Death. And it is amazing. And I've watched it several times. And I cannot stop watching YouTube compilations about it. And my gay heart is so happy, so I have to talk about it. So this is the only reason why I brought this topic today, and the topic is called Pirates. Let's go. Let's talk about pirates.
We're talking about pirates.
I want to talk about pirates. It's all that I think about for this week. So, we got to get in there.
That's solid. Everybody has a pirate week.
Everybody has a pirate episode, right?
Of course.
Don't they?
Everybody has a pirate phase. If it's a week or a year. The straight
people had like Pirates of the Caribbean, which is also, by the way, part of my like YouTube recommendations now because the whole Johnny Depp thing's been going on, right?
Oh, yeah.
The trial.
Yep.
So
apparently he's never watched it. Which is crazy.
Yeah, I saw that. That's so funny to me that some actors like don't watch their own stuff. Because I would find it so hard already into the segue. It's fun. I would find it so hard to not watch your own stuff back because I think you can learn a lot from it. And I feel like it's important to know what you did. But I mean, he's also Johnny Depp and he's been doing fine.
Exactly.
So yeah. So Pirates has been in my heart and in my head, Dante. And I think it's nice to just talk about naturally, I've also seen a lot of video essays already on Our Flag Means Death and everything related to it. As you do when you're obsessed over a series.
Of course.
And the thing that struck me most, and I think the thing that we should talk about first, is the whole kind of idea of a pirate crew, of the sort of masculinity attached to it, the idea that they're outside of the law, but they're also very much romanticized. Like it's a very cool thing to be a pirate or to have a pirate story, right?
That's facts. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, pirates are really fucking great. They're awesome. But usually these are like the rough and tumble guys, the no mercy characters, right? The legendary criminals on the sea that are super skilled and don't give fucks, I guess. There's backstabbing. There's, promise of a lot of riches. There's operating outside the law, all this stuff, right? And I feel like we talked a little bit about this in the episode where we talked about the anime about airships and stuff.
Right.
Where you recommended me a very good, I forgot the name, but the OST of like the dragon
Drifting
something.
Dragons. Yes.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Perfect. And that's been like a very good pirate vibe. And in my D&D campaign, we're also getting into a sort of pirate arc lately by accident before I watch this. So this will also be good for my own series, So first off, maybe just to pass the mic to you for a second, I just want to hear about the coolest things or the coolest stories about pirates that have stayed with you, or the thing that instantly is sort of the first thing in your mind in this topic.
Right. So regarding pirates, I haven't watched Our Flag Means Death. I've heard a lot of people talking about it, so it's got to be pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll add it to the list. My personal experience with like pirate literature, as funny as that is, obviously the world knows about Pirates of the Caribbean, but people who know me as someone who reads a lot of manga or anime, obviously One Piece comes straight to the forefront. One Piece is a at this point, very old anime. What is it? 15, 20 years old by now?
Oh, okay.
And there's a solid 1,000 chapters.
Wow. God, okay. That's a lot.
Yeah, like just last year. And the author is like, yeah, we're about 65, 70% of the way.
Whoa.
And everybody's like, oh, here we go.
Wild.
But it is a wonderful story about a boy who accidentally gains kind of rubber powers, like superpowers, the ability to stretch his limbs.
Oh, okay.
And because he looks up to this famous pirate, he chooses to follow in their footsteps and become a pirate himself, chasing something called the One Piece, the grand treasure, the ultimate hoard of gold, supposedly, to ever exist, owned by the previously famously killed strongest pirate in the world.
Okay. Good premise.
Hundreds of thousands of pirate ships are launched into the sea to pursue this great treasure. And for 1,000 chapters, his name is Luffy. Luffy has been chasing this treasure and assembling a crew and interacting with hundreds of different pirates along the way. So one of the biggest strong points about this series is kind of the concept of a found family. Along the way, yes. Luffy says, I'm going to pick up the best of the best, the strongest pirates out there. He needs a navigator. He needs a shipwright. He needs a cook. He needs a doctor. He needs a first mate, sharpshooter, musician, I guess. So he, along the way, every 50 or 100 or so chapters, he finds a new person to convince to join his pirate crew. And they all have their own hang-ups, their histories, their backstories, their rivalries, and their goals and ambitions, you know? And each one brings something new to the table. So a big appeal of the series is thinking who's going to join next? Who's the next person to add to this crew, this motley family?
Interesting. Okay. So it's also the way that you described it. At first, I thought you were going to say like the first 1 or 2 episodes is like assembling the crew and then they go on adventures. No. But it's like a continuous assembly of crew members, I guess.
They added their 10th and supposedly final member in the 900 chapters.
Fuck. Wow.
The first couple arrived in the first 400, 500, but like the final piece has always been like a toss-up and something we're looking forward to.
Okay.
Again, the next big topic besides like the family of this assembled crew of people who are on the seas for a very long time and obviously have a lot of time together. The big thing is freedom. The ability to do what you want, be where you want, chase what you want, realize your own ambitions by your own strength and sword, you know? That's the real thing. Like separating yourself from the confines of law and order and military and all of that to do something technically not allowed and sail the open seas and be free from any tether that might hold you down from your true realized potential.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest appeals of like, besides like the cool aesthetic of being a pirate, one of the big appeals of that kind of story.
Yeah,
it's a way to chase your freedom.
I love that you're already touching on 2 things that in my brain immediately are fascinating together as a combination, like both found family and freedom, which is kind of interesting because that really talks about trust then, right? Like found family is the whole thing of like I choose the ones that I want to, you know, devote my life to or that I want to have around me or that I want to trust me and that I dare to trust, I guess. But then the whole freedom thing is literally I'm getting outside of this system now because I don't trust it with, you know, my life, I guess. Or I don't want to be a part of this. And I think that's quite interesting as a sort of juxtaposition almost a little bit. Because I feel like for a found family, you need a certain system or safe space to be in. And in piracy, ironically, the safe space is literally like getting away from like land and I guess roaming around. And maybe the ship is the safe space, which is again also like linking to a small space to be in, that you're spending so much time in one. Ships aren't like worlds. They're not like endlessly expansive. You can't like get lost in them. At some point you've kind of seen what it is, you know, what places you can go, but that's it. Like you can't leave the bubble if you're on the sea, basically.
Yeah, what you have to kind of understand about the whole premise is that it's a huge commitment, right? You're leaving behind everything. So you're throwing all of your trust on the people on this boat into the open sea, and you're on the sea often enough. You're always on boats and stuff.
Sure.
It's once you're out there, it's like terrifying. It's crazy. Like there is like when you're so far from land that you can't see anything around you, you're truly at the whims and mercies of this great, powerful kind of entity that is the ocean, that is the open seas. So your trust has to go so far with the people that you're with. And there's nothing to fall back on. there's nowhere to go back to, you know? The whole concept of being a pirate is releasing yourself from the responsible tether that ties you to your work and your family and everything that you had back home. The inherent risk of it leads to everybody interacting with each other much more openly or vibrantly, or, you know, it's the concept of everybody has their story. So like, why are you here? Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I also immediately thought, like, there's literally, even if you would want it to, there's probably not like families, like actual families on the seas. Like, everyone is very much an individual, lonely character in a way before I guess you make friends or get to know the people that you see around you on these ships and in this I guess culture. But everyone is super singular. That really asks for a certain openness, because there's literally nothing else to hold on to but these strange people that you're gonna go seafaring with for at least like 3 weeks or something.
Right.
Which is pretty intense. Like, that's entirely about trust, and that's so vulnerable, ironically, even though pirates are like, you know, in the way that we know the trope, they're like these masculine, strong, don't give a fuck characters, and that's beautifully like not rhyming for me.
So I'm guessing what I'm hearing from you is that in the series Our Flag Means Death, there's a lot of like hardened people opening up. Is the vibe I'm getting. The
interesting thing about this series, I will not spoil this because you have to watch it. I will put this on top of the list that you have to watch.
All right.
It's of utmost importance that I can spam you with opinions about this without having to spoiler warn all the time. Sure. But I will be nice, you know, to the audience and to you today, so I won't spoil everything. But here's like a little snippet of what it is. First off, it's by Taika Waititi, who is a New Zealand
that's awesome.
director and actor.
Yeah.
He also made Jojo Rabbit. He made the vampire mockumentary, What We Do in the Shadows, which is also fucking hilarious, which has been a while ago. And now he made and is starring in Our Flag Means Death, which is a series.
Fantastic.
With the first season now. And the interesting combination that's going on in the series is that it's both comedy and drama at the same time, but also it's, you know, taking place in Pirate Land. Pirate you know, nice. there's costumes, and there's like this sort of periodical, quote unquote, big quotation marks, accuracy that's going on in the background, right? They have sets and they have costumes and stuff like that.
Nice.
Ironically, in sort of preparation for bringing up this topic to you, I was sort of thinking, what kind of pirate characters do exist in this series, Our Flag Means Death, that I would have never thought to be viable pirates, basically, right? So the main character, or one of the main characters, is actually a wealthy landowner who completely gets rid of his old monotonous life and then decides to become a pirate. But obviously he's from like posh culture, and he's quite a soft boy, and he loves fine fabrics and stuff like that, right? He doesn't understand really what piracy is until he's doing it, and he's like, oh damn, I'm like so bad at this, and the crew doesn't really like me because I'm not like your average pirate guy, I guess.
I'm not a pirate guy.
But he's still doing it, you know, and he's growing over the series. The entire crew that he's sailing with is basically a sort of combination of untrusting of him, because he pays them, the crew, a wage, a salary, which is not a thing in piracy. He's like, oh yeah, I'll just have like financial support for you. Isn't that nice? Like, usually pirates just have to like kill to earn a living. And he's like, you don't have to do that on my boat. We're like, let's be nice pirates. So it's kind of a range between like the sort of toxic masculinity, we got to be strong and independent pirates that are in the series, versus like the PTSD pirates that fought a long time ago and are now just a little bit crazy and like glad to be on this chill pirate ship for once. And, you know, ranging towards like legendary pirates that actually have a soft side and didn't realize until they meet this wacko. So it's a range of people, and because of that, also a very much broadened spectrum of what it means to be a pirate, because they're all still doing what they're doing. And I love that. It's super fascinating to me, and really opens up also the genre, because, I mean, I feel like we've talked about this before, but like in every sort of genre that's very clearly defined, you know, like Western, or that has like quite literal tropes to it. Maybe that's every genre, honestly, now that I think about it. But like pirates or Westerns or like rom-coms, they all have a certain vibe to them. We all immediately understand when we see a character, okay, he's the nice best friend, or he's the troubled main character, whatever, you know? And by making a series that very clearly states itself as a pirate series, it's like, we are part of this genre, but we're not doing what the genre does. And it's super fun to me and freeing. And I love it.
Exactly.
It's pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and that kind of dynamic of just a hodgepodge of characters thrown together to kind of take on the world together is not just limited to obviously pirate themes, but you see it a lot in Space Odyssey sort of series where everybody's trapped on the same like spaceship, or anything where a bunch of people have to travel together and kind of work together in some sort of like survival aspect, you know? You get all of these different perspectives mixing and trying to deal with the duality of a harsh reality versus trying to discover themselves and try something new, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
What I love about it is that everybody in the cast usually has like different levels of experience, right? There's like the fresh faced, and then there's a hardened veteran, and then there's the people in between. And seeing like how those people interact. And I always love the mentor trope where there's somebody who sees the fresh face and takes it upon themselves to make sure they're ready for this new world they're about to tackle, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Which also, by the way, links to like the classic thing of like father issues, which I also feel like is pretty big in pirate, or at least, you know, looking up to like a mentor kind of character in a way like that. I mean, I'm saying it like literal father issues, but not just, it can also be like found father issues, I guess.
Right, of course.
Which is interesting because when you have like people that all sort of take up this persona of, you know, strong independent pirate, I guess, most of them male in at least the representation we've seen so far.
Right.
You know, whenever there's a relationship going on, because they're in this space forever with like a lot of people that they, you know, they have to interact at some point. They obviously form relationships pretty quickly. Immediately when there's like a sort of power dynamic or a sort of exactly what you were saying, like a sort of teacher versus student relationship, right? There's always this sort of projection going on, or this interesting balance going on between like, if you're a student or a pupil of somebody else, or you're presented as someone who doesn't know as much as the other characters.
Right.
Which is, again, not sort of classically masculine or like cool as a pirate to not know anything about what you're doing, right? But still, it's a lot present because that's the only reason that these people can be together. Like, they're super closely related anyway, and not everyone is going to have the same experience level, I should say.
Yeah, I think that the concept of a pirate has been heavily caricatured over the years, and anything trying to break that mold or add a couple layers of depth to that idea is going to have a great success. I think it's just an awesome topic. And of course, like as you mentioned earlier, this is a life of crime, right? This is a life away from the laws and justice. So you have to be some sort of hardened to get there, right? Something must have happened to bring you to that point to reject society, embrace piracy, I suppose. And so there's so many layers at work with this fun concept of a person that plays really well in its own sphere and does really well in telling a fantastical story. Does a great job setting up these adventures and these dynamics. And it's just something the time and time again encourages this inspiring senses of adventure, you know?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Have you had like pirate arcs in your games or something recently?
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, recently.
Well, or not recently, you know, whatever you feel like.
Well, the server I run is basically,
is it literally pirates?
Yeah, it's tropical island based, so it's
well, fair. Yeah,
it's samurai meet pirates and sail the
pretty
open
cool.
seas.
That's pretty cool. Yep. No, I dig it.
Yeah. It's always just fun to throw people on a boat and see how they manage.
Yep.
But yeah.
And also, last thing that I want to say, that it didn't.
Of course.
Also, part of why Our Flagman's Death is very famous, which is not really relating to pirates at all at this point, is because it didn't queerbait. It didn't like hint at a queer relationship. It was just full on and beautiful, and it had no ageism. It was just amazingly executed and
wonderful,
groundbreaking and beautiful. So kudos to Taika Waititi.
So it didn't save the romantic relationship for the last 5 minutes.
No, and it was like actually like in front of the camera and not like, did they? I'm not sure. Well, you know, we'll have to figure out in the next season. No, it was just there and beautiful and important.
Awesome.
And I loved it.
Yeah, that is fantastic to hear because that is one of the most frustrating things.
Specifically in a pirate series where everyone is like toxic masculinity normally, where there's no woman present or any queer anything. I was so happy. Okay. Getting off track here. But yes.
No problem. Okay. I guess I'll bounce us to the next topic.
Yeah,
this is going to be an awesome title for for an episode. My topic is very simple. I chose to take it a little bit light, and we'll just talk about the concept in general. My topic is fire.
Ooh,
you know it. You love it. It's cinema's favorite element. There's truly nothing flashier and more exciting than just a little bit of fire.
It's
Mix
true.
that in with whatever you're doing.
Explosions. Yeah. Let's go.
Exactly. Fire as a concept, and why I'm truly, don't expect me to go through all 4 elements in the next couple episodes. I just want to stick with, maybe we'll visit the others soon enough. It won't be me.
Careful what you put out there in the universe, man.
Yeah. If I wake up 5 minutes before a podcast with no ideas,
well, there's still 3 more.
Haven't done water yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, for fire in particular, when portrayed in some sort of literary media, whether it be books or movies, it can represent a lot of different things. There's a lot of contrasting yet matching ideologies or motifs that come with portraying fire. And I kind of wanted to dive into a couple of these, right?
Yeah, nice.
Just in your head, off the top of your head, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think fire?
Anger, explosion, passion.
Yeah. Exactly. If you watch any like superhero or that sort of thing, the fiery character is almost always the hothead, the person who's ill-tempered, hard to control, passionate, fiery, got a lot of energy and doesn't know where to put it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's funny how somebody kind of idealizing an element can be so quickly characterized. And it's because whenever we experience fire in real life, there are real tangible feelings that we express when we witness it.
Yeah.
And the first is probably fear. Fire is a dangerous thing. Fire is an uncontrollable thing.
Yeah, it's destructive, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's destructive. It's something you have to be careful around. Immediately, like a bunch of really, from the first time you touch your hand on the pot when you're a kid, it's the first thing that really kind of scares you, I guess.
Yeah, you got to stay away from it, usually in like real life.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
you will burn.
Yeah, and the second thing that comes to mind when I think of fire is wonder. It's very visually beautiful.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one too. Yeah. This is like the feeling when you're staring into a campfire, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the first time.
The best feeling.
I'm a city kid. I didn't see many campfires growing up, but boy, when I did, it was so cool. You get to watch. Of course, yeah. You get to watch it like take over the logs that are in the campfire. You get to see the embers, constant stream flying up into the air before they dissipate into the night. You know, such a cool visual. It's one of those things. I look at fire and I think it's one of those things that first inspired the idea of magic. Right? It is truly kind of an. We say it right now, but it feels like an otherworldly presence. The way it moves, the way it flashes, the way it vibes with the air around it, the way it spreads and is power. You know, there's a power to it. There's what is the word? It's a V word. The vivacity to it. There's something. That's not the word I was looking for, but that works too.
Like force or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It's powerful. It's not something we can control, but something we have always been entranced by.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I used to do art history in high school, and there was this one thing that we talked about in like classical romanticist paintings, which are basically like these paintings with like a lot of clouds or like intense seas or large mountainscapes, like very impressive nature. And it's the theme of the sublime. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the sublime, basically, it's very interesting. And it talks about how a thing or an element or, a subject can be both frightening and intriguing at the same time. And whenever those qualities are present in the same thing, the sort of classic example is a ruin in a forest or something, where something is overgrown and it's kind of beautifully taken back by nature, but it's also scary because you don't really know what it was or why it's broken, So you kind of want to investigate and also want to run away from it. And this is really also, I feel, the thing that's going on with fire. Like, we both don't know anything about it, and it looks magical and wonderful and fascinating, and I want to own it and have it in my house. But also, like, it hurts and it burns down forests, and, you know, once it's on, it probably won't turn off if you don't have it nicely in a corner away from everything else that you own. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's fascinating.
It's funny that something inanimate requires this sort of like care and attention. You know, there's like a general sense of like fostering it, like tending to the fire, making sure it grows, but not too much.
And also because it moves, it almost feels like it's not inanimate. It feels like it has a soul or something, or like
exactly
that it has decision making or something. Strangely enough,
yeah, which is why
nice,
I pick it. Yeah, which is why I chose to pick it before the other elements. It feels like a character all in itself.
Yeah,
which is what makes it so easy to kind of plug into a character in some sort of literary media and immediately attribute all of these qualities that we already understand so vividly, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Did you ever use it in a specific way? Or
yeah, so
sorry, I'm thinking out loud, but I'm wondering what this or can add to a storytelling or a narrative arc to this, because it's an interesting kind of quote unquote character, I guess, in its own way. And we've seen plenty of series that attribute like characteristics to a thing that's fire, or, you know, I mean, the obvious example being Avatar, where it's like, oh, they have to learn what it is and improve the relationship they have with the element of fire, with any element.
Right.
But I wonder if you've ever used it in this way too, or what's the thing that appeals to you most about this?
So, in specifically D&D, I'm going to tap into my experience here.
Sure.
I have an interesting partnership with fire that all of my players are well aware of, and I use all the time. Basically, I'm going to sum this up in one sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very intrigued now.
When I light the city on fire, it's time to go.
Okay.
So, to back the story up, in my first campaign, I believe, looking back on it, I burned the first 3 cities that they arrived at.
Oh God, okay.
Half because it's the power of the bad guy.
Sure.
But also because fire adds a sense of urgency. It's very, especially at the levels especially at low levels in D&D, there's very little you can do to stop a moving fire. So there is a press for time. There's a clock that immediately triggers. Buildings are burning. People are in danger.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something you have to finish before this all goes up in smoke. What is it? How do you do it? It's time to go. Right.
Oh, I kind of love that, though.
Urgency is the key here.
That's so fascinating. It's like the perfect, I mean, natural in a way, time limit that you give your players.
Right.
Oh, that's
I feel like I'm much better at writing now that I haven't had to lean on fire so much. But boy, early in the campaign, they're like, oh, he's burning the city again. All right.
If all else fails, you know, just give them a forest fire and we're good.
Yeah. It kind of adds the pressure that this is no longer in our control. There's let's assemble the things we do have in our control and handle that before this gets out of hand.
Yeah. You know? I love that. And also that it adds, I feel like this is true for any major event that is out of the hands of the players or the main characters. It reminded me of the moment in campaign 2 in Critical Role, spoiler, for like, I don't know, 10th episode or something.
Sure.
Where the tower sort of fell. So they were just doing a random heist or something like that. They had to like infiltrate a building or a house of someone. And then the dungeon master all of a sudden is like, you hear a very high pitched sound in the air and you don't really know where it's coming from. And there were a few of the team members of the party outside of the building. And they saw from afar like a building that's just been part of the city for forever long they've been in the city, right? Just collapse or sort of fall. And they saw stuff happening, right? And a similar thing happens when you put like a major force or a sudden influence or, you know, occurrence in the place that they've been in for a while, such as your, you know, city fires. It's super impactful because it's, well, one, it's out of your hand. 2, it's super impressive because something that's been like a solid base for the entire campaign or for like a long time, such as a city.
Right.
You know, the location that you're in, literally the place that you're playing in, suddenly can die or break or burn away, right?
Right.
Yeah, which is like taking away the fundament that you've built carefully over time. And that's very powerful, I feel.
Yeah, it's I think we talked about this during the weather episode of dealing with like forces of nature.
Oh yeah.
It's a drastic, sudden change, and you're split between being in awe of it and being terrified of it. There is something that has to happen now, it's a now kind of problem. It's not a later kind of problem. It's not like global
First
warming
priority.
where people can pretend to ignore it, right? It's a deal with this now before everything falls on itself. It's a catalyst for movement.
I love that.
My favorite way to utilize it. And I try not to rely on it as a crutch anymore, because boy, do I tap into it a lot. But yeah, that's basically what I was leaning towards. In terms of like world building and such, fire is always an interesting concept to kind of build societies and civilizations around. We're both huge fans of Avatar, obviously, and we talk about it enough. But the Fire Nation in Avatar has this fantastic dichotomy of blazing, terrifying control versus the vibrancy of life and giving and rebirth. Fire can kind of lean in both aspects. And one of the biggest turning points for our favorite character in the series, Zuko, is when he has to realize that he can't rely on his anger to power his fire anymore, but rather he has to rely on basically the breath of life, or the warmth that it can provide. Find a new medium to channel it through.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is also, again, I think, just linking to what you said earlier, like when we're building societies around the element of fire or something, or, practices of fire, that's also, again, linking to the sort of mysticism that it has, right? Because it feels almost like a worship at times, like the way that they presented it in Avatar with like the sun warriors, I think they're called. They had like a very similar worship almost of the
reverence,
the ones that could breathe fire, right? And I think that divinity or the mysteriousness, the mystique to it, again, is sort of this sublime thing. Like we're both terrified and we want to please it because we love it so much.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah, so if there's any takeaway from this portion of the podcast, use fire. Not too much.
Use fire, folks. Whenever in doubt, use fire. Use that good old fire, and you will
use it responsibly. Or irresponsible.
Or not, become a pirate and be like, well, I don't care.
Yeah.
One of the last lines that I want to share with you about, or that's been said in Our Flag Means Death, is when one of the pirates comes into the like home abode, like the main quarters of our like newly soft boy pirate.
Got it.
And he's like, wait, you have like an open fireplace in a personal library with books made of paper on a wooden vessel? So whenever,
Amazing.
In case you guys wanted to become pirates, that's probably like the way to do it. Just channel the mysticism of fire and you're going to be good.
Yeah. With that said, let's close the door on this topic and conclude our podcast with a prompt, as we always do. We try to end these podcasts giving each other a prompt, one that we can expand into a greater story or narrative or something to just play around with and world build and storytell with. So I believe today it's your prompt. Looking forward to it.
That's true. I thought, because I also loved the guest episode so much and the character building that you did there. So I thought, why not do another character building? And obviously, since I could not think about anything else but pirates this week, we're gonna build a legendary pirate together. I just want to build like a pirate legend with you. Just, real quick.
Sure. Just one pirate legend, please.
Exactly. One casual pirate legend, please.
All right. You got to go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was actually just like going to toss it to you. Like, do you instantly have something in mind, or let's just discuss this and see where we end up.
Okay. We're starting with a legendary pirate. All right. We can talk about what makes them legendary. The most legendary. All right. I already have a picture of what that looks like because I watched a lot of One Piece. There is a legendary pirate there.
Sure.
But I'm going to try to ignore that. When we talk about legendary pirates, there's a reason that they're legendary. But before we go into that, I kind of want to leave that for the last. After we build the guy or the girl, what is this person? What did the person we create? What are they famous for? So let's start. The first thing I want to do is make this pirate stand out. So we're going to give them long blonde hair.
Okay.
Just like flowing, vibrant, very
well taken care of, or is this like your dreadlock person?
We're gonna tie it up with one kind of hairband.
Yes.
That the fact that it's like flowing past their waist. But when they pull off the hairband, it gets wild and crazy.
Ooh.
They're called you know what, let's just say it. They're called the Lion of the Sea, not to be confused with Sea Lion.
Yes.
They're called the Lion
Amazing.
of the Sea. Once they get out there, you see that flash of gold. They call it gold because it sounds cooler than blonde.
Sure.
You know that it's going to be a mess.
I feel like also this pirate is like, I mean, maybe not even secretly, but like very, very well taking care of their hair because of this like gold thing that their name alludes to. Like there's more pirates that have gold hair, blonde hair, but you know, they're kind of gross. So if you want to be the golden boy, you gotta like take care of those locks, you know?
Yeah, we can make him, to add to the aesthetic, I think it'd be a legendary pirate in a world that favors kind of like man and masculinity. We're going to make him like sufficiently tall. Not the...
Okay,
I say that,
yes.
like, there's like a standard here.
Sure. I dig it.
Not too tall to make him like a giant. He's going to have pirate crew members who are very, very tall. The guys is like bodyguards. We'll put him at like a solid like 6'1".
Generally,
6'2".
he's looking down at people.
Generally tall. Yeah. Look, he's going to he's going to have he's gonna have a singular scar. We got to give him like a mark that tells him he's been through a lot. You know, we're gonna trace that. We won't do the eye thing because we do the eye thing a lot. But we're gonna there's going to be a large scar across his back. It's going to be a long mark trailing from one shoulder to his waist.
Okay.
Of the one time that his crewmate backstabbed him. It's going to be a long slash with a sword. It was probably the event of a mutiny. This is not his first pirate crew. This is his second that he's manning. And the first one, he left because it was mutinous. And he was, of legend, the only person to survive.
I was going to say, like, if he's got to be a legendary pirate, I feel like this crew attempting mutiny at him did not end well for the crew.
No, of course not. The legend that surrounds him is that never betray said pirate, or you'll end up like the sunken ship of his past, you know?
Exactly. Yes.
All right. He needs Jolly Roger. What's his pirate flag look like? Can you paint me like a logo for that?
Ooh, his flag. Okay. I feel like this is like kind of like the musical poster for Cats, but then like with a lion and like more cool than, but you know, like when they have like the glowing eyes,
right?
I feel like that's a big part of their aesthetic. Obviously black. I feel like you can't go wrong with black. Classic
sure.
black. I feel like there's like a few lines on it in two of the opposing corners that look like sort of scratches of like a claw.
Okay. That's awesome.
I feel like that makes sense.
What I kind of want to do with this is that we take the Jolly Roger, we hang it really high, and there's like a special kind of paint that they've used that highlights the eyes. So whenever it's dark at night, it reflects the moonlight.
Yes.
And you can see the eyes like peering through the clouds or the mist of the veil of the sea. And you can see them coming from far off.
I think the part of his rumored legendariness is also this eye. So even though it's just like the symbol on his flag that lights up whenever, you know, the Lion of the Sea is in sight, I guess.
Sure.
The rumor has spread much wider than that and says of him that his eyes are also lighting up. And even though he has just, I don't know, regular blue eyes or brown eyes, whatever,
right,
people will just not look into his eyes anymore because they fear what they will see.
I like to imagine that there's some sort of special paint, the same the one that he used on the flag. He puts it like stripes right beneath his eyes. So that, like, from a distance, it looks like the watching eyes.
For sure. Yeah.
I like to believe if he's known for being a lion, he'll have weapons that kind of resemble that. I'm not going to go like the Wolverine route, but I'm thinking he has.
I
like,
would
two
not
scimitars.
hate it though, but yes.
I'm thinking he has like two scimitars on his side, like each one like resembling a claw.
That's nice. Yeah.
If this is a fantasy world, we can make it magical, but I'm not going to do that. I think this guy is pretty well grounded in reality and is just trying to keep up the bravado of a legendary pirate. The reputation has to precede him. You in these kind of situations, what wins him a lot of scenarios and combats is reputation itself. So he realized that keeping up this appearance is what makes him more powerful. Now that we talk about that, we've talked up his appearance, his reputation, his ship and his crew.
Yes.
What is his dark secret? What is it that he cannot let anybody know? I'm thinking it might tie into why the mutiny happened in the first place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel it relates to it. Either they like understood what it was that he was hiding from them or not sharing, or the thing that he's now not sharing was about this mutiny or something happened during that time.
And what I kind of want to do with this, let's go this route. The legendary pirate, the Gold Lion, whatever he might be, is an inherited title.
Oh.
So if we walk it back and we look at that mutinous moment, the person who betrayed the legendary pirate, who slashed him across his back, did successfully kill him. But in his last moments, the legendary pirate turns to this mutinous man and says, "Now that I'm dying, you have to take care of your next crew.
Ooh.
This is a legacy that you have to continue because there's lives on the line.
Oh, dang.
You will leave this crew will disappear from history. But the legacy that you carry will be mine, for me, to make sure that the people I care about on land remain safe.
Are taken care of. Ooh. Okay.
That is the promise you will make to me for taking my life. The trade for a trade."
Interesting. So they're not the OG Gold Lion, huh?
They aren't. So the main is
which perhaps
fabricated.
Also, by the way, ties into the fact that people don't want to look them in the eye, which is maybe in the first place why they were able to even sort of sneakily slip into this title.
So the legacy of this famed pirate kind of protects him because nobody has a perfect description of what he looks like. As long as he keeps up the hair, he keeps up the face paint, the glowing eyes, and the bravado, then he can continue this legacy. And he constantly battles the guilt of not being the pirate everyone claims him to be, continuing to have to live up to this legacy over and over and over again.
Yeah,
to
that's
maintain
interesting.
This promise.
I also wonder, like, what if, and maybe then we should wrap it up, but what if this, like, secondary Gold Lion legend actually wasn't, like, that much into, I mean, I guess into piracy, but, like, wasn't that much of, like, a ruthless killer that the first one was, and what gained him this, like, title, right? And now, because he has fallen into this role and has seen the protection and the riches that he gains from being this title and sort of maintaining this persona, he has to also maintain this sort of ruthlessness that comes with it, which is not in his, you know, I mean, I don't want to say in his vocabulary, but like it's not inherently like in him. He has to really go to like a far deep place to like be able to kill people, which has never made him a good pirate, honestly, in the first place.
Of course.
But suddenly he's into this role and he has to maintain the fact that the other one did it naturally and did it all the time. And that might be a little bit some fuel for some backstory drama PTSD.
You have to imagine that the first mutinous act was kind of a cowardly one. The fact that he struck his back, there was clearly something he wanted to change, wanted to fix, and the only way he could solve it was by, quote unquote, killing the Golden Lion, getting rid of his problem.
Yeah.
You know?
Ooh.
And in doing so, invented a whole world that he must now hold and take the mantle of.
Oh,
you know?
It's so cursed. I love it.
All right. We're going to wrap this up. We got to give him a name. So give me a letter, and I'll throw out the first name that comes to mind.
A letter? Ooh.
Yeah, this is how I do it in my D&D games.
Really?
When I don't have a name. I don't have a name for somebody. They give me a letter. I just make something.
Okay, here's an R for you.
An R? God, the first name I come up with is dumb. We'll call him Rowan.
Rowan.
R-O, Rowan.
Yeah.
We'll pronounce R-O-H-A-N. That's how we'll spell it. Rowan, the Golden Lion. Or the False Lion.
Yeah.
One or the other.
I mean, I guess he's still the Golden Lion. People just don't.
Yeah, we can just call him Rowan the Golden Lion. Oh, right. Right?
I
think he'll probably
in
just
his
take
heart,
on the
he's
mantle of
not,
the Golden Lion.
But that doesn't matter for a legend. Like, it's not like legends are real anyway. Amazing.
He might be.
Beautiful.
Maybe. Somewhere.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I suppose that'll be good enough.
Yes. Amazing. Beautiful.
Amazing. So, with that said, thank you again for joining us for this podcast. Again, we want to inspire the idea and the energy of world building and storytelling and all the fun things you can create from it and examining all of our favorite works along the way. So have a great week. Have a wonderful time inventing these new realities. But as you do, always remember, your rivers are wrong.
Yep, they're pretty wrong.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Your Rivers Are Wrong. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future episodes that you'd like to hear us cover, feel free to contact us at yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. Our intro and outro music is written by Maarten Schellekens. Thanks for that. And again, thank you so much for listening. We hope to see you at the next one.